Good morning, this is Jeff with Sewer Tech Northwest. Today we're at property address 23871 Southwest Sanders Terrace here in Sherwood. We are located at the front right corner of the home. The line actually comes out the right side, but it's at the front left corner here. There's the front door. We're just off to the right of that. And I describe everything as if you're in the street facing the front of the house. We're dropping into a 3-inch ABS cleanout. We're going to check the overall condition and serviceability of the sanitary sewer line. Water is running. We are zeroed out, and off we go. Looks like we got a little bit of hot water running through the pipe. We'll get that all cleared out when we reel back in and get a nice review of things. So right out of the gate, that is a superbly clean flow line right there. When we get a less steamed up pipe, I'll be able to get a better gander at the pipe wall. Yeah, there's a little bit of substance up on the sidewall of the pipe there. Which generally indicates this is a line that has not been recently cleaned. That kind of film takes a while to develop over time. And it's mostly related to cooking oil and grease going down the pipe. Camera's upside down right now, if you're wondering why the water's flying over top there. This right here is exactly how you want your sewer line to look. That's just treating this thing beautifully and how you should be treating the line. So swapping over here to 4-inch 3034, we went through a little bit of standing water there right at the transition. It's an extremely common location to get standing water. Another belly here, and this is a second opinion, or third opinion. I can't remember what number I am in the row here. To be honest with you, I thought I was coming out here to look at bellies a little more substantial than that. Those things are tiny, and they're a long ways away from the home. We'll get a nice review of things as we come back in here. I can tell you right now already, with even not even having the water drained out, those are a long ways away from recommending repairs. This one's here, a little bit more substantial level of standing water. You notice the only thing that's sitting in the belly in general right now are eggshells. Eggshells are not a substance you want to go down your line to begin with. They just, for whatever reason, don't travel well through the sewer line. They get hung up in your P-trap like crazy. That U-bend under your sink is where they really gunk your pipes up. And for whatever reason, you can even run a jetter through a sewer line and eggshells have a problem scooting out of there. Anyway, they're not something I really use as a metric to gauge whether a line is functioning properly or not. Grease, eggshells, things like that, they're not intended to go down your sewer line to begin with. So anyway, and what's there right now is minor. That's just kind of a tidbit for you. It's something you want to avoid putting down your line. They build up like crazy in your P-traps and can cause your sink drains especially to get clogged up pretty easily. So anyway, we've got, looks like 3 bellies there, spaced out a little bit. We're gonna take a good look at those as we come back in here. We're gonna go locate the camera head really quick while the pipe drains off. Yep. My foot counter just reset there for some odd reason. Well, I'm gonna probably have to go back and review the video for the exact, from this foot to that foot is the belly here. I'm not sure what just happened. Anyway, we're gonna start reeling back in. Just located the camera head there. Line terminates on Southwest Sanders Terrace. The line veers from right to left, gets underneath the right side panel of the driveway, and then shoots down that particular panel on out to the road. At the main there is a astonishingly shallow main lateral. It's only 4 feet deep. For reference, the average main lateral on a neighborhood like this, at these distances from the home, is typically going to be around 7 to 8 feet. So you've got a very tight tolerance sewer line here. If you don't install this thing absolutely perfectly, it's going to settle to some extent. In fact, had you told me it was 4 feet deep out there, I would have told you right out of the gate there was going to be bellies in the line. It's a very difficult thing to grade a line this length out to that distance. So anyhow, so we're at the furthest out belly here. Again, I'm going to have to go back home and review the footage markers here, and I'll put that on the report in paper. This belly in particular here, this is probably the largest belly of them all. It's also the furthest from the home. And if you're going to have bellies, the further out they are, that's just where you want them to be, where they pose a much less likelihood of causing backups. The reason for that is head pressure. And real quick here, what I'm doing is I'm measuring that water. That water line is right at the top of my camera lens. So you're working with about 1 inch of standing water. And that belly there is approximately, just looking at my foot counter going backwards, which usually counts backward a little bit differently than it does going out. It's right around 5 feet in length with about 1 inch of water in it. So as the line sits here, as you can see, the top of the pipe there has a little bit of staining at it. It's got some gunk, and I like to see that. What that tells me is, had someone just run a hydrojetter through here recently, that stuff would get stripped off the pipe wall, and it's not going to be there. But if you look at the top of the sewer line, this is what tells you the whole story. And kind of as a preface to this, I've been doing this 13 years. I've cambered almost 25,000 sewer lines at this point in my career. I've done drain cleaning, repairs, all of it. So what's important about this, the top of the pipe is spotless clean. The buildup on the sidewalls there, I can hardly call buildup. It's a layer that's probably 1/32 of an inch thick, if that. If that had blocked and backed up any time in the last 10 or 15 years, granted, unless a jetter had gone through here recently, you would have debris buildup stuck to the top of the pipe and very thick stuff on the sidewalls leading all the way back to the home. There is not a speck of buildup, I mean, even a couple inches prior to that belly there. All the pipe was intact, and the only thing I can even talk about as it relates to debris are a few eggshell fragments that are in the belly, which as it sits is not even drain cleaning worthy. It's so minor. All right, getting back into another one here. This one's a little less so. That wire line pulls down below my camera lens a little bit easier than the furthest out one. This one, too, is right around 1 inch of standing water. So in a similar length section of pipe there, it looks like. Now, this one looks like it's just a little bit shorter than the other one. That's probably about 4 feet in length there with about 1 inch of water in it. Again, zero buildup to speak of. Right now the camera's upside down. You have a little bit of staining at the top of the pipe. And when the staining is that thin and that minor, anytime you have standing water, it's going to promote things like mildew, fungal growth, stuff like that. If you imagine, you know, when someone's taking a nice hot shower, all these bellies, any cold water that's in them gets replaced with hot water. It steams up, it condenses on the top of the pipe, just like it, you know, does on a cold glass on a hot day. All that steam hits the top of the pipe, and you get perfect scenarios for mold and mildew growth to occur. Most of what you're looking at the top of the pipe there is mold and mildew growth. You can tell by how spotty it is. It's not a thick, continuous layer like grease buildup is. So the overwhelming majority, if not all of the substance you're seeing there at the top of the pipe and the sidewalls is just simply mildew and mold growth, which will happen in your sewer line, it'll happen in your crawl space, it'll happen anywhere where you have any amount of water. Luckily, it's in your sewer pipe and not inside your home, where it's nothing to even worry about. And then another belly here right before the transition joint. This is by far the most common location in a sewer line to get a belly, is these two different sections of pipe are often getting installed at different times. So, and you know, whatever black pipe was run out there, is the grading's only going to be as good as whatever green pipe you're attaching to. So this is, anyway, all those bellies there, I can't even recommend $5 in drain cleaning on them, let alone you go and tear a trench, I mean, from probably the driveway all the way to the main lateral. That is complete overkill, in my opinion. And where these bellies are situated, they're in the latter half of the sewer line. That's where you want them to be. Most of these bellies, even close into the home, would struggle to cause a problem unless the line was being heavily abused. Where these bellies are situated in this line, as far away from the home as they are, and they're not terribly significant bellies to begin with. At the 5 foot mark, a 5 foot length of pipe with 1 inch of water is where I just start to consider recommending repairs. And most of them I do not. Most bellies I'm recommending fixes on these days are, generally speaking, in old pipe materials like concrete and cast iron, where the water will slow things down to some extent, but then you couple that with very rough, snarly pipe walls that snag onto that debris. That's not a combination I love. It can result in blockages under generally even proper scenarios, let alone abusive scenarios. In smooth plastic pipe like this, fact of the matter is these bellies are not causing the kind of problems that they are kind of reported to be doing. It massively comes down to the homeowner. And whoever's been living here has done a fabulous job of treating the sewer line correctly. This is how you want your line to be treated. The biggest thing is not putting greases, fats, and oils down your kitchen sink drain. That stuff will build up anywhere in your sewer line, belly or not, but it likes to concentrate when it hits standing water because it cools down rapidly and also floats to the top of the water. and starts to get built up on the sidewalls. So in these plastic sewer lines, especially the distance those bellies are from the home, the only scenario where I could ever foresee that even causing a problem or coming close to it is that the line is being abused on a consistent basis and quite heavily. If you're a home that likes to do a lot of deep fat frying, for instance, and you know a fair amount of oil is going down the line, I would rather see someone spend $350 every few years to do maintenance jetting to keep that clean than go and rip this thing out. What I'm getting to also, not that I would recommend a fix on these anyway, but in order to repair these, when you're dealing with a main lateral that's only 4 feet deep and your tolerances are this tight, let's say, you know, for instance, you've got 25 feet of pipe here that's got bellies in it. It's not that much, but this is just for my example. It's very rare, unless you have a line with a lot of slope and grade work in your favor, rarely can you fix just the dimensions of the belly. In this scenario here, with your tolerances as tight as they are, you don't have any, I haven't seen any obvious really hard steep falls here. This is one where you're going to be correcting far more than just the bellies on their own. A lot of repair companies are going to tell you you're going to be probably fixing almost double the amount of pipe that you have here that's bellied to even correct it. Even in that scenario, I'm not confident you'd fully correct the belly without redoing the entire sewer line. So, in my opinion, it's overkill simply to spot repair them, but it is even more overkill to go to the extent that I think you're going to have to correct these. For a line that is essentially spotless clean, I can't even recommend you clean it for a few $100. So, that's my 2 cents on that. There's no buildup in the line that even suggests that a blockage has even happened in the past, let alone a backup. And what I was getting at earlier with the distance those are from the home, if you could even, you know, theoretically develop a blockage out at those distances, you know, 30, 40 plus feet away from the home, you have to fill up at least that much pipe just to get back to the clean out. And probably another, you know, 10 feet or so, 15 feet of pipe potentially going back into the home to even reach your first fixture. In doing so, you create a humongous amount of head pressure. And this line doesn't show any evidence of even having to do that in the past. But, you know, for this example, that head pressure is going to knock basically any proper item loose if you were to get toilet paper hung up in there, which I think is unlikely. The only things that could really withstand a backup from those distances would be, generally speaking, improper items. Paper towels, wipes, I include flushable wipes in the improper category. They are terrible, and do not put them down your line, especially when you have some level of standing water in the line. They clog up perfectly good sewer lines. You don't want to be using those things. But if you're not feeding this line improper items, you're not giving it anything to actually build up. And that's what these folks have been doing here. So I'm going to flip the camera around for just a second. All the pipe we just scoped there, all of it is intact. Nothing's broken. This plastic pipe, modern plastic pipe here, can settle to an incredible extent without breaking. It's one of the beauties of it. So, and the reason I'm doing this right here, when someone calls out, my experience over the years of doing this, and I've done many of these, when someone comes out to hydrojet a sewer line, I don't know if I've met a single company, unless it is specifically requested and you're pulling a toilet inside the house, ever hydrojets backwards. Most companies are afraid of overloading the drains and blasting water up through your fixtures. It's just something that is not done unless there is a very specific reason for it. And usually you're having to pull a toilet and jet from the interior out in order to accomplish that. Anyway, the reason I run backwards here is this is probably one of the best places to look for evidence, especially if someone's tried to eliminate evidence by jetting a line preemptively to erase debris buildup to minimize things. This spot right here never gets touched. And that right there on the pipe wall is some human hair, by the way. If you're looking at that, it's a little bit of hair there. This is spotless clean going back into the home here, showing no evidence whatsoever that we're looking at anything that's caused a blockage in the past. So, as we sit here today, we have adequate flow to the main lateral. Is it perfect? No, but it is certainly adequate. Otherwise, we would have buildup throughout the entire sewer line. We'd have something to even talk about. So there are some imperfections in the sewer line, but based on how long this house has been here and the amount of use it's had renters in it, families, lots of people living in it, shows no signs of causing any kind of significant flow issues that are leading to recurring blockages or backups. Otherwise, we would have buildup somewhere in the line that would show us that. The best I can point out in here are extremely thin layers of substance at the top of the sewer line, and they're so thin it's hard to even call them past blockage evidence. If any of it is past blockage evidence, these are blockages that may have occurred and broke loose almost instantaneously. And that can be under scenarios where someone accidentally put something improper down the sewer line and it broke loose on its own. So anyway, all the pipes intact. It is a superbly clean sewer line. Keep those habits up and you can keep the line looking just like this. My kind of PSA for the day is cooking oil and grease. Try not to put it down your sewer line as best as possible. If you've got enough oil and grease on your pans, when you turn them sideways, it runs off the pan in beads or worse. It's at that point you want to do something about it. Let the pan cool down, wipe it out with a paper towel, pour the grease into a jar. You don't want it going down your sewer line. A thin little coating of PAM spray is no big deal. Use hot water and soap and keep that hot water running for about a minute or so longer than your last dish was washed. That helps to keep anything that does get down line melted and emulsified until it gets out to the main lateral. So if you can keep the grease buildup I'm a huge stickler on it. Over the 13 years I've been doing this, I've become more concerned about grease buildup than I am most of these structural issues. If you're dumping tons of grease and oil down your line, what I have found over the years I've been doing drain cleaning, usually when I'm looking at a belly with a blockage in it, it's not just a spiffy clean belly like this. I'm looking at a belly with an inch thick layer of grease buildup that's constricted the line down and created sticky, nasty conditions. And then someone finishes the job by flushing 14 balls of toilet paper down the line or a big wadded up mess of paper towels or something of that nature. It is usually a conjunction of issues that lead to those. So where these bellies are positioned as far away from the home as they are, and they're not terribly significant bellies to begin with. They're too minor, in my opinion, to require repairs. They're in combination with being too far from the home to pose any kind of high risk for blocking unless the line is being abused. So if you're a house that does a lot of cooking, I'm not going to beat anyone up for cooking tasty food in a deep fat fryer. If you know fats are getting down the line on a frequent basis, it would be worthwhile to rescope in a year just to see how things are looking. If you are developing thick grease buildup, which again will build up anywhere in the line, not just the bellies, you could do periodic maintenance jetting if it's even necessary. As long as this house has existed and sat here, maintenance jetting looks like it has never even been necessary whatsoever. So, and this line's been put to a pretty good test at this point. I think it's been here for something like 20 years or so. Anyhow, sewer line is functioning at this time. All the pipe is intact and functioning.